Welcome to News Radio 840 WHAS. We are brought to you by the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety, and we are jumping right into a story tonight that is very compelling. It is a story that is true. We have not changed the names. We are keeping the names. It is the stuff of soap operas, but it is a real story, and we're going to hear it right now. It is a story of unbelievable courage and a life saved and a life taken. So we are going to tell this story right now. Okay, so let's bring in Jennifer Albright. Jennifer, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Will you tell me about your son, Davey? What was he like? Tell me about him.
He was funny, and he was academically gifted, and he played the drums at church. He was a great big brother. He was a typical teenager in a lot of ways. I mean, he wasn't particularly excited about mowing the grass and unloading the dishwasher and picking up his socks, but that's, as you well know, that's what teenagers are like. Right? Yes, yeah, right. Yes. Right, yeah. But he loved being at Trinity High School, and he loved working at Plains Bakery. He was just a really neat kid.
I've heard that same story from basically everyone. My son was a classmate of your son's, and he enjoyed him very much. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But tell us, it is the 1-year anniversary of what? Tell me what happened last year.
Last August 31st, there was, as you said earlier, a horrible rain, and Max, his little brother, and Davey and myself were outside playing in the rain. We just thought it would be fun, as many, many people do, play out in the rain, splash in the puddles, splash each other. He had just come home from work at Plains on a Friday evening, and we were going to make dinner and watch a movie, and we thought we'll go outside and play in the rain for a little bit beforehand. And he slipped in the backyard. We have a sort of a low spot that goes between our backyard and the people behind us that runs all the way from further up the street in the neighborhood down to a drainage area that goes underneath the street that comes into the neighborhood and then empties out on the other side of that street. And he was playing and splashing with Max and me, and he slipped and went in, and I tried to pull him out, but I was not able to. And we ended up calling 911, and EMS came. Wonderful first responders who are very close to my heart. They did everything they could, and they got him to Norton Children's Hospital, and he was in the ICU, the pediatric ICU, for a week. About Wednesday, the week after his accident, that was Labor Day weekend. So Wednesday following, we sat down with some doctors, and they showed us some brain scans, and there was not a whole lot of activity. And so we ended up making the decision that that was not the life that I wanted him to live, or that he would have wanted to live. So we ended up deciding that we were going to take away all of the life maintaining equipment and donate his organs, because, as we knew, there were a lot of people, including Melanie, that needed organs to continue to live, and you can't take them with you.
No, and listen, God bless you. I want you to know, and I know this doesn't help in any way, but if it's any consolation, do you know that the entire city was revolving around your family? That I was in tears, my wife was in tears, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, every one of us were just holding on to hope and praying, and then when that final moment came, we were shattered right along with you.
Yeah. Well, I was at a Trinity football game that night when we decided that, there was nothing more that could be done, and that I needed to be with Max instead of being with Davey. I just couldn't stand there.
That was so amazing that night. That really, we all got word that you were there. It was insane.
The Shamrock Moms took the flag across the field, and they asked me if I would carry it. They flew the flag at half staff for Davey, and I was just, the whole game, I knew that I was just waiting for the news that it had happened, and I knew that if it took any more than an hour from the time they ceased the life support, if it took any longer than an hour, they would not be able to use the organs. So never did I think I would be praying for my son to go fast, but I was that night. And so when they called me and said that he went very quickly and peacefully, that I knew it was a go.
So you go from, all that is happening. You go to the game. All this obviously is surreal. You don't have time to really kind of process all this. You've made the decision to take him off life support. And then Melanie. So what was the phone call like when you decided you were going to help Melanie, which, by the way, Melanie works at Trinity High School, at the school that he goes to.
And we knew that she was needing a kidney. And I just thought, okay, on the off chance that there is a way for Davy's kidney to be a match for someone in a chain so that eventually Melanie could get hers. Mm-hmm. But when they sat me down and said, I have news, and I went, okay. And they said, it's a direct match.
That's incredible.
What are the odds?
I don't know.
Amazing.
I don't know. It was a God thing.
It
was a God thing. So September 7th was when that all happened. Trinity was pretty amazing that night. We felt like VIPs. My mom and my dad and Max and I were all there. We pulled up. Dr. Rob Mullen, who's the president of the school, he was standing out there with James Tora, and they reserved us a nice little spot right up there. They rushed us in to the Marshall Center because apparently there was word had gotten out that we would be there. And of course, like you said, there are so many people supportive of us. They thought that maybe it would be better if we sort of went away over into another area until closer to when we were walking the flag across the field. Felt kind of like VIPs. We got Chick-fil-A sandwiches. We got all the Diet Coke.
It's usually $5 at the
exactly. Going to say that's about a deal.
That was pretty amazing. We sat right there with Dr. Mullen and with his wife, and we had a great view of the game. And I was just trying to focus on the game because obviously there was a lot of other things going. There were a lot of things going through my mind, but.
It is a large community, Margaret Mary and and Trinity High School. It's a lot of people, but at that moment, everybody sort of came together. Mm-hmm. Describe that.
Well, just
the service was
the prayer
amazing.
service. I was not there, but I heard that it was more full than it had been even on most Christmas and Easter services. Mm-hmm. And there are still people that I didn't know and maybe still have never met that are. Telling me that they are thinking of me, that they're praying for us, that, I don't really feel like I've been any different from what anybody else would be. You kind of have to be strong. I had been through this before when my husband died when the boys were 5 and 2. And I just thought the only way that I'm going to get through this is because I had these boys needing me to, you can't just stay in bed all day or drink yourself into a stupor every night, although it's tempting.
Right.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
I needed those boys to make sure that I got up every morning and was functional. And Max is what gets me going. That's the only reason I get up in the morning is because I have a 13-year-old who needs his mom. Mm-hmm. But I need him just as much as he needs me, I think.
Look, I've known that Trinity is a special place for a long time. I think the night that John came home from the service, my son, he was in your class and was friends with your son. He said he came home and said it was the most amazing thing he had been part of in his life, and that he'd never been a part of anything like that before, and that the entire faculty was there. And
it's an amazing brotherhood.
Yeah,
it's amazing. People have commented to me. We kind of joke. We refer to that school on Poplar Level. We don't say its name, but that school on Poplar Level. Not only were alumni from both, from many other schools.
Yeah, St. Axel.
That
we don't say the name, okay. Tony.
Okay.
But they just people being completely floored at the funeral when those young men were told only one thing: if you go to the funeral, you must wear a coat and tie.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many of you or your listeners were out there, but it was amazing. And Margaret Mary is not a small church.
Right, it's big.
Those young men lined the entire outside they stood out around the outside so the other people could sit down.
Yeah.
And then when it was time for us to process into the where we were having food and a sort of a receiving line sort of thing, they lined the whole walkway. And I was just so unbelievably moved. And to hear that, they still consider Davy to be part of the class of 2021.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I took his class of 2021 T-shirt out of his drawer, and I wore it to the game on the night of the 7th, and I wore it to the first home game this year. And Max will be visiting Trinity and shadowing this week. So even though we're not from here, I feel like this community has just taken us on as,
you're part of the family.
We are.
Yeah,
we are.
Without a doubt. And like I said before, I'm not Catholic. None of my family is Catholic. But some of my family do go to the other school.
That's all right.
We're not going to talk about.
We'll forgive them.
But I want you to know that they were the ones right alongside of us, crying and just holding out hope. And when we come back, I want to find out how you and your son and your family, you turn tragedy into triumph.
Sure.
And it's a beautiful